You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 12th part of What If Naruto Enters Undertale. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Everyone stayed quiet for a few seconds afterward. But you dash. Luck be with you, heroes. Rosal spoke and left the room running. As the path was now free, there was only one more floor yet to be explored. Without further delay, the three of them climbed the stairs to enter the awaited last floor. Soon enough, they realized it was the throne room. The one and only room that showed the poor state of the King of Spades. It had a throne and small piles of riches all over it, decorated as any ruler's longing, filled with wall banners symbolizing the king and the regime itself. Despite it, something didn't seem right about the room. Both the throne and some wall banners had signs of destruction. The throne had a scratch and some wall banners were cut, which led them to wonder what happened earlier in the royal room. Ralsei looked at it, concerned, while Naruto and Suzy remained with their normal expressions looking at the mess the royal room was. Still, all of them wondered who did it and why. In the corner of the room, Naruto noticed a save point only he can see. He reached out and saved his save file, which, as expected, identified this location as the Card Castle throne. After successfully saving his save file while instantly recovering his HP along with his teammates, Naruto walked to the next corridor, uninterested in seeing what else was left in the destroyed throne room. They're almost there and reaching the king himself. He walked to the end but soon stopped near the start of the next corridor. He just stood there looking at it without saying anything. It was dark beyond it. Naruto? We're almost there. Let's keep going, Ralsei tried to encourage Naruto because she thought he was scared. He remained silent, looking at the path ahead. Naruto. You're scaring us, dude, Suzy said, but he didn't respond to her either. Why do I feel like I have a sudden urge to go back? Something tells me the moment we continue through the next corridor, there's no turning back. We may have reached the end of our journey, but it feels like something's missing. Naruto was in deep thought. He doesn't know why, but something in his gut is telling him he should go back, as if something was yet to be done. It's like when he and Frisk were in the underground and had to use the power of load because they had missed something critical when they first confronted Askari before. He's starting to have that feeling again within his soul. The thought of going back was slowly getting to him as it turned into a strong longing while he kept staring at the dark room ahead in silence. Suzy and Ralsei started to get worried at his weird behavior, wondering what's going through his mind. After about a minute of staring, Naruto started to walk back into the throne room, not even looking to see if his team were with him. He wasn't running but walking at a reasonable speed. Naruto? Where are you going? Ralsei asked, trying to catch up with him. Naruto didn't say a word and kept walking and soon entered the elevator. After entering the elevator, a dialogue text appeared before him. Where will you ride the elevator to? Prison B1. Floor 1F. What's this? Where does this button lead to? Now that I think about it, I was wondering why this button only has question marks. Is there an unknown location we aren't aware of that goes below the prison? Naruto thought as he decided to select the button. After pressing the button as the doors started to close, Ralsei and Suzy managed to enter the elevator fast enough as well, just barely as the elevator descended down. What the hell was that, Naruto? What was that all about? Going to the top and then suddenly going back. Suzy said, pissed because she almost didn't make it in time. Sorry about all that, you two, but we're not confronting the king just yet. Naruto apologized while waiting to reach their new destination. What? Why the hell not? Because, I feel like something has yet to be done. I don't know why and don't know how, but seeing we're at the edge of ending this journey, I felt this feeling that something we haven't seen just yet and where we're going is one of them. So just bear with me on this, he explained. Suzy didn't say anything after hearing his explanation and just remained quiet while folding her arms as she still pissed off at how silent and weird Naruto was acting. Then out of nowhere decided to go back and almost left her and Ralsei behind in the elevator and now going somewhere that she has no idea where. Ralsei didn't say a word and just chose to stay quiet as things got a bit tense with how Naruto acted and wondered where they're going now if they're not confronting the king just yet. No one spoke a word. It was filled with dead silence. The only sounds hearable were the sounds of the metal of the elevator itself. Time passed and a big sound was heard. The elevator had landed on the desired floor and the doors slowly opened. When they walked off it, they were met with a darker and colder room than any other of the castle. Candles with blue flames were suspended on the walls, giving it little light but making it creepier and unusually suspicious. A piece of music similar to circus themes could also be heard not far from them, but not a happy or motivating one. It was darker. Well, ain't this place just creepy, and the sinister circus music doesn't help either. Just what kind of place is this? Naruto wondered while narrowing his eyes at the single corridor with stairs leading to something yet to be seen. He got off the elevator and walked to the stairs casually, not scared by the environment of the place but was cautious of entering the unknown. Ralsei got off the elevator after and followed him, concerned and getting scared. Suzy got off too and didn't take long to get with the others. Naruto, why are we here? What's with this floor? Suzy asked, looking at the candles scattered across the dark room. Don't know. Which is why we're here to find out for ourselves, Naruto answered her while continuing to follow the staircase. It led to a cell and crying was heard from it. A fake cry. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, you-ee-ee-hee-hee. So lonely, lonely, I be but low, 3 visitors standing inside. Who are you few? The unknown person spoke in a male voice to the heroes when they arrived in his cell. The person they're speaking to right now is what appears to be some sort of a clown. A sinister one at that. This Darkner is a short, pudgy imp with a round gray face, elven ears, clown-like eyes with small yellow pupils and black sclera, and a large smiling mouth with yellow, sharp teeth and a long, purple tongue. He also has a purple tail that's shaped like a capital letter J. His attire is dressed in a purple shirt, black trousers, a black cape, green slippers, black socks, purple mittens, and a lime green and yellow jester's collar. He also wears a purple and black harlequin jester hat with 2 small yellow bells. His head appears to be connected to his body, which gives off akin to that of a jack-in-the-box appearance. Overall, he's one creepy and sinister-looking clown they've ever met since coming here. And nice to meet you. I'm Ralsei, this is Naruto, and, Ralsei tried to be polite, yet anyone could see she was frightened even by little. So, what the hell are you doing in there? Suzy asked, breaking the introduction. I am innocent, innocent. I just wanted to play a game. But the boring kings found such fun to be a trouble. As punishment, they craved to imprison my body, the jester said sadly, but something about his tone made Suzy suspect the whole situation. But I'm fast, clever. They lost the chase, and locked up their entire race, building a prison around the whole world. Now I'm the only free one, he explained how he got locked. Or was it freedom? Huh. Free. But you're clearly the one behind bars, Ralsei nervously smiled but in confusion at the clown's words. Things don't seem such from here, Lightners. The jester laughed. Well, sounds like you don't need any help, then, Suzy said and turned around to go back. That is UNSO. I grow lonely in my little freedom, he confessed. So, shall you play a game with me? I will show you what means to be free. Naruto stared at the cell for a brief moment before nodding into playing the game the jester mentioned. Fine, we will play your game for now. What is it you want? Find the key, and I'll let you be free. The key is hidden from the eyes. The old shopkeeper knows a secret, the clown spoke and a mysterious sound echoed in the room. Naruto stared at the cell for a moment before urging both Rousei and Suzy that it's time to leave as he walks back to the elevator. Although he could have saved his save file since he didn't acknowledge there's a save point down here the moment he saw a bright light only he could see but the first time, he decided against it until later once they come back with everything they need. Rousei got the message and followed after him while Suzy caught up to them as they entered the elevator and left this creepy prison room as the elevator door closed and ascended up once Naruto selected floor 1F. As the elevator moved towards its destination, nobody said a word for a while before Suzy decided to break the ice. Alright Naruto, are you gonna tell us what we're getting ourselves into? Look, no, you and Rousei are wondering why we came down there and met that creepy jester, but something tells me that clown, maybe more of a threat than the king himself, he said, revealing how much of a threat that jester is. What do you mean? Rousei asked. I don't know, it's just the moment we met that clown, I felt something chaotic from him. Whatever game that jester played made the kings imprison him like they couldn't handle the jester anymore as they view his antics as trouble for them. It could be the reason why he's locked up. However, I feel there's something more than that. So as of now, we're going back to the field of hopes and dreams to pay Seem a visit to find out what that shopkeeper knows about that jester as well along with locating the keys. Luckily, me and Rousei already found one over at Scarlet Forest when Suzy decided to go play villain on us at the time, Naruto explained. Suzy didn't say a word at that reminder because it's something she honestly didn't want to remember what Naruto did to her when she pushed him over the edge and almost suffered the consequences due to her actions. She almost became a cripple and probably worse if he wasn't stopped by the fluffy princess. Ah. That's right. We did find that key but it's broken though, Rousei spoke, remembering that the key is useless. That's not an issue. We know a darkener that can fix anything. Have you forgotten, Rousei? He asked. The fluffy princess thought for a moment before remembering a certain darkener at the bake sale that helped fix Top Chef's piece of his ruined cake. Oh. You mean Maliu's, right? Naruto nodded with a smile. Yup, you are correct. If anyone can fix a broken key, it's Maliu's. Plus it's a good thing we have a reason to return back to get that key fixed now we know what that key is intended for. Who? Suzy asked, doesn't know who this Maliu's is. Oh, long story short, we met a darkener that's capable of actually fixing anything over at the bake sale when you and Lancer ripped me off of my $40 dark over that Lancer cookie you two chuckleheads sold to me, he explained, reminding her of the time she and Lancer ripped him off. Heh, that's right, we did do that. Good times, she said with a smirk at that thought. Naruto just scoffed at this since she clearly didn't feel bad about it, not that he expected her to. Whatever, he can always recover it back through fights anyway, but it still annoys him regardless. Anyway, once we visit Seem for information, we will search for the keys, get them fixed by Maliu's then return back to that jester to release him, he stated, telling them what they're gonna do. You sure it's wise to release someone like him if what you said is true that he's more dangerous than the king himself? Rousei said with uncertainty. For once I agree with the toothpaste girl. This seems stupid and risky, Suzy agrees with Rousei. For any sane person they wouldn't think twice in releasing someone from a cell. Especially one who's a sinister-looking jester. But under any circumstances, we've faced worse. So regardless how incredibly risky this is, I'm certain we will pull through. We got items that'll keep us in battle and we fought tough enemies that gave us trouble, mainly round. Soon we will eventually face the king, but until then, let's deal with the jester first and see just how much trouble he truly is, Naruto said. Both Suzy and Rousei didn't say a word until the latter spoke. Well, if you're certain we can do this, then I'm with you through and through. I'll always stay by your side and help out as much as I can. Ugh. What a corny thing to say. But fine, I suppose this could give me a chance to see how tough that wannabe clown is before we square off with the king, So I'm in too. Suzy cringes at first from Rousei's words but smirks since she's on board as well. Naruto nodded to them with a smile, seeing that both of them are on board and helping him while the elevator arrived at its destination, which is perfect timing as the trio exited through the elevator door. The gang left the elevator as they're now at floor 1F, but not for long as they immediately took off to the corridor which led to the exit of Card Castle. They emerge from the entrance of Card Castle as they make their way back to the forest, where a warp door that wasn't glowing is now active as they approached it. Hang on, that wasn't like that before. Why is that random door glowing? Suzy asked in confusion. Don't worry about it. This door will warp us to where we need to go. You'll get used to it. Think of this like a fast travel in Away from Games, Naruto said before interacting with the door that a familiar text popped up in front of him. It's a door. Where will you go? Field. Bake sale. Forest. Castle. He immediately selected field as he opened the warp door. Then him, Suzy and Rousei went through the door before closing it behind them, and in no time, they found themselves back at the fields. Man, it sure feels refreshing to be back here once again. I sure missed its catchy music and the positive atmosphere, Naruto said, enjoying its music as the gang made their way to Seam's shop. I agree, Naruto. I sure missed its music as well, and the scenery, Rousei happily agreed as she too is enjoying its music with him. Suzy just rolled her eyes at these two nerds as they enjoyed the field's music, but she will admit that it is pretty catchy, not like she'll admit it out loud of course. While the gang walked around the field to reach over to Seam's shop, the cheerful music gave Rousei a longing to dance. It reminded her of when she and Naruto danced at the beginning of their adventure. It was a good memory after all. Too bad Suzy is with them and probably would make fun of her if she chose to dance. Still, the thought of her dancing with Naruto at the start of their journey was the best memory she'll reminisce and cherish forever. The trio made it to Seam's shop and they entered through its entrance as Naruto intended to get information from the shopkeeper about that strange jester they met. Welcome back, travelers. Seam greeted the Lightner's return as Naruto nodded back in response. Hey Seam, we're not here to buy items, just information if you're willing to answer like last time we were here. Sure. I don't have anything better to do, so go ahead, what is it you wish to ask? Seam waiting for Naruto's question. What can you tell us about this strange prisoner that's locked up over at Card Castle, or more specifically, a sinister-looking jester that speaks in an odd manner? He went straight to the point and asked the shopkeeper about that imprisoned jester. What are you talking about? A prisoner with an odd manner? Seam asked, confused. No, you couldn't possibly be talking about him. He thought out loud. Him. So you do know who that jester is then? Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. Yeah, I do. After all the trouble I went through to lock him up, you want to release him? Seam asked, which Naruto nodded for confirmation. Now that you mention it, it could be troublesome if he was left alone. Yes, perhaps it's better if you heroes dealt with him now. After all, it's not as if whatever happens, will matter in the end, he laughed. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this but chose to not say anything as the shopkeeper continued on, perhaps a little chaos might be fun. So then, have this. Seam smiled with the idea and handed him a piece of a broken key with a letter A which was added to his key items. If you're so driven, find the other two pieces, and get someone to fix them. I'll even give you a hint, walk where the stars don't shine. Anyhow, if you succeed, come back here and tell me. Good luck. If you can call this luck, no, it's more like a curse. He finished. I see. Well, thank you for the information and the broken key. We'll let you know how things play out. Naruto thanked him for the info and the second broken key. Just need one more before meeting with Malius at the bake sale. He be sure to tell me how it all went down if you heroes managed to deal with him. I'll be here waiting for the news of your return. Seam smiled at them, not realizing they're in for a chaotic surprise once they release that jester's cell. He nodded before thinking about buying at least one item after changing his mind after what Seam told him. You know what? I've changed my mind. I think I'll buy a few items before taking our leave. Alright, what do you like to buy? The shopkeeper asked. Naruto requested to buy the spooky sword, 2 dark burgers, and 3 dark candy which cost him 460 dark dollars. Originally he had 695 dollars after his last purchase from Ruzzles at his shop from Card Castle. Now after giving Seam 460 dollars which he received the items given, he's now down to 235 dollars. After getting the items Naruto purchased, he bid the shopkeeper farewell as the three of them walked out of the shop. Once they left the shop, Naruto accessed his equip stats and checked out his new weapon. He doesn't want to switch his Sakabato over to the spooky sword, but he'll strap his new sword with his Sakabato as he plans to utilize both of them if possible. For now, he'll keep his Sakabato equipped for now at the moment until further notice. Anyway, once Naruto quickly made a save file, the trio made their way through the field and went over to the already solved box puzzle at the locked gate. He did when Suzy wasn't interested in helping but rather wanted to leave at the time. So where are we going now? Ralsei asked in curiosity. If I remember correctly, I distinctly recall there was another puzzle we skipped at the time. I suspect that the last broken key is located in that area. So we're going back to it to see if we can acquire that last piece if possible, Naruto told her. He believed that the last key is where that unsolved puzzle they skipped at the time. Then let's hurry up and get that last piece. The quicker the better, Suzy said, eager to walk a bit faster but not too fast as the trio fast walked past the gate. The trio walked to their destination along the pathway. While walking fast, Ralsei was starting to struggle with keeping up as she was getting tired. Naruto stopped to look back and notice how Ralsei looked pretty exhausted and asked. Ralsei, are you doing okay? I'm sorry. I'm just a little tired. I will catch up. You guys go on ahead. Ralsei exhaustedly told them, promising she'll catch up soon. Suzy replied. Then she kept walking. She wasn't even planning on stopping anyway, so this is fine for her. Naruto just stared at Ralsei for a moment before walking towards her, which made the fluffy princess get nervous, thinking he's upset with her for making them slow down. Sword dash, Ralsei stuttered a bit as she was about to apologize before seeing Naruto simply extend his hand to her. She was confused for a moment before realizing what Naruto was offering to her, which made the fluffy princess blush at the implication. You want to hold hands? Then she started to get flustered and looked down in embarrassment as she knew what Naruto's intentions were. It's so I don't get left behind or lost. That is so nice of you. Thanks. Ralsei gave Naruto her cute smile, which made him blush a bit at how freaking cute she is while smiling back at her. She happily extended her paw to his, which he gently took her and held it as the two smiled at each other, having a cute little moment. Ugh. You guys are so slow. Suzy's voice brought their attention as she's getting annoyed at how Ralsei and now Naruto are moving so slow. This made them sweat drop at the fact they were too busy having their little moment that they totally held up Suzy, much to their embarrassment. Oops, I totally forgot Suzy is there with us, Naruto thought. He was a bit embarrassed for literally forgetting that Suzy with them now. Sorry Suzy, Ralsei apologized in embarrassment. Suzy sighs at this before walking towards them. Guess I have no option. Here, she extends her hand to Naruto, much to his surprise at this unexpected action. What is this? Why are you being so oddly nice and extending your hand out to me? He asked while tilting his head and making sure that his sentient scarf doesn't lash out at her for getting too close to him. He noticed that Suzy's face was flustered a bit as she tried to explain herself. It's just. So we all are going at the same pace. Suzy knew this was a bad idea as she was already regretting what she just did. You know what? Just never me dash. She was about to retract her hand, but Naruto reluctantly extended his to her. Naruto fixing the hand order as the trio walked together while holding hands, with Ralsei looking cutely happy on the left and Suzy looking embarrassed at what she's doing on the right while Naruto is in the middle. He finds this strangely wholesome due to the fact they're holding hands in order to walk together at the same pace. I'm not gonna admit this, but oddly enough, I can see myself holding hands with Frisk, Asriel, Red, and maybe Chara in this scenario. Maybe even with Muffet too. Man, this is quite strange, but this is nice, Naruto thought as he smiled as the three reached the next area. It didn't take long for them to reach where chess pawn statues were stationed as the three went north, and not that long they spotted enemies up ahead. The trio let go of their hands as one of the enemies, a jiraiya, took notice of them and charged at them, which started a fight. It wasn't anything difficult or new as they fought jiraiya, Ruten, and a Hathi. It was pretty easy since they know aside from Suzy how simple this is once you know their weaknesses. Nonetheless, Naruto and his team managed to befriend and exflatter to the enemies, which resulted in an easy win with 0 EXP and $87. After that was quickly dispatched. They returned to the spiked puzzle with the sign as the three stared at it in wonder how to solve this puzzle. So any of you two nerds know how to solve this? Suzy asked, already not wanting to do this puzzle. Well, if I recall correctly from before, this puzzle can only happen if we've been to the card castle by room. We skipped this one back then since we weren't anywhere near close to the card castle until now. We should be able to figure this puzzle out now, Ralsei summarized from before to now. Okay, that's fine and all, but what does it mean by, from the bottom, the order of our rooms in card castle? What rooms does this sign mean? She asked as she walked over to the sign. Well it's the fluffy princess was trying to come up with an answer but didn't seem to know, unfortunately. Naruto was silent for a bit as he stared at the puzzle, then recalled what the sign implies. Maybe. I might have a possibility on what the sign may have implied. From the start of floor 1F, there was a room that was diamond-shaped. Next on floor 3F, there was a heart-shaped room, followed by a club-shaped room on floor 4F, then lasting on floor 5F, Lancer's room, which it's shaped like a spade. So if I were to take a guess, those room shapes must be the hidden answer to this puzzle, Naruto thoughtfully deduced from his observation. Wow! You could be on to something here, Naruto. That could be the answer we were looking for. Ralsei was surprised he solved the mystery of their answer for this puzzle. Great, let's see if what you say is true, Suzy said as she folded her arms awaiting to see if what he said was correct. Naruto decided to get started as he first pressed the red diamond button, then the red and black arrows to switch the diamond shape to heart shape. He then pressed the diamond button again, followed by the back spade button, then the red and black arrows, which switched the first image of diamond, second to heart, then third to club. Lastly he pressed the spade button, and just like that, the spikes were deactivated as he solved the puzzle. You did it. You solved the puzzle. Ralsei praised Naruto, happily. Guess your hunch was right. I'm kinda impressed. Suzy admitted that he actually figured out the solution to this puzzle, which she's not gonna lie, that was totally a big brain move there. Thank you too. Now let's claim our prize. Naruto appreciates their compliments while he went over to the treasure chest and opened it, where inside was a broken key with a letter C, which is added to his key items. Alright, I believe we got all the broken pieces of the key. Now let's go over to the bake sale to pay MangaMuse a visit to fix these. Both Suzy and Ralsei nodded to him, then Naruto led the two back to the warp door that they arrived at. It took them a couple of minutes, but eventually they made it back to the warp door, where the usual text appeared in front of Naruto. It's a door. Where will you go? Field. Bake sale. Forest. Castle. He selected bake sale as their new destination as Naruto opened the door and the trio entered through as the door closed behind them. The gang arrived at the bake sale after walking out of the warp door as Naruto led the two over where MangaMuse is located. Upon arrival, MangaMuse recognized both Naruto and Ralsei, who brought their new purple friend along as they spoke. Well, if it isn't you two again. I see you have another companion with you. What do I owe the pleasure of you returning back here? I need you to fix these 3 broken items for us, please, Naruto said as I brought out the broken keys of A, B and C from his key items and showed it to MangaMuse. That key is seething with energy. You must let me fix it. Haha. Let's feel my technique. The smith said loudly once Naruto handed over to the darkener and then started to slam the keys until they were one. The broken key parts have now magically fixed beyond recognition. The broken key parts have become the prison key. Well, SHT guess Naruto wasn't joking when he said this guy can fix anything. Suzy thought after watching this unfold to see if this darkener can do it, to which she got her answer. This key has a terrible energy coming from it. Please understand that I only fixed it so that you will never have to use it. Naruto nodded to the darkener as he retrieved the prison key. Thanks for the help, Malius. We appreciate this greatly. He bid the darkener farewell as he along with Suzy and Rousei left the area and went back to the warp door. Alright you two, we finally acquired all 3 broken keys and got them all fixed into one prison key. We can now return to that mysterious room to confront that jester, he said. Great. Now we can see just how tough that clown really is, Suzy said. She's itching to fight that jester. I sure hope we're prepared for this, Rousei nervously said, feeling a bit of uncertainty. Don't worry Rousei, we'll be fine. I promise. No matter how much of a threat that clown may be, we're prepared and ready, he assured her, much to Rousei's appreciation for his calming words which eases her worries. I swear, you two gotta be mushy with each other when I'm around. Suzy groaned at this from having to see how these two always be friendly with each other and it's making her wanna GG. I'm just calming Rousei down. Nothing wrong with that, Naruto said to Suzy while Rousei was a little embarrassed but still happy as she stood near Naruto for comfort. Suzy rolled her eyes as she spoke, whatever. If you both are done having a heart-to-heart moment, let's get back to the card castle and get this over with. Yeah, don't rush me. We're going, he said as he went over to the warp door to interact as the text appeared to him once more. It's a door. Where will you go? Field. Bake sale. Forest. Castle. Naruto selected castle as he opened the door as the gang went on through to return back to Card Castle as the door closed behind them. The gang returned back to the Card Castle as they made their way back to the castle's entrance and entered the castle building. They quickly had to avoid the guards patrolling around after one of their fellow guards wasn't stationed there anymore. The trio managed to reach the elevator door and they entered without getting caught. As they entered through the elevator door, Naruto went over to the buttons to interact and the dialogue text appeared before him. Where will you ride the elevator to? Prison B1. Floor 1F. Naruto selected the unknown button as the elevator door closed as the elevator descended to the mysterious room. The elevator arrived at its destination as the creepy circus music echoed through the room as the trio stepped out and descended downstairs. Alright you two. Whatever happens from this point on, always be on guard and prepare for whatever this jester has in store for us. I have a distinct feeling that this clown would give us a tough time. If any of you two have second thoughts about going through this, now's the time before reaching to the bottom, Naruto said as he kept walking down darkened hallway. PFFF. You won't get any second thoughts from me. I'm eager to see just how dangerous that clown is compared to us. We ain't cowards, Suzy isn't backing out on going through what they're about to do. I am a bit nervous about this but I'm certain we will prevail. I'll do everything I can that's within my power to protect you both from what's to come. Rousei spoke nervously for a moment before getting determined to protect her friends no matter what. Naruto didn't look back to them but he did smirk at their responses. Good, that's what I like to hear. Then let's show this clown what a couple of heroes like us can do. The gang eventually reached down to the bottom of the stairs while Naruto decided now would be a good time to make a save as he interacted with the save point and created a save file, which is not surprising that the text registered this as the Card Castle dash. Once that was squared away, they approached the cell to speak with the insane jester, which it didn't take long for the clown to greet them with a laugh when he saw them return. Uee, he, the key. A marvelous fun is about to break free. Won't you let yourself outside? The jester asked euphorically. Naruto didn't say a word and he used the prison key to put the door keyhole in front of the door to unlock the clown's cell. He unlocked the locked door, which seemed to create a door for them to enter, for the cell is now unlocked for them to come inside. He looked back at his team with a serious expression. This is it. There's no going back from this. Prepare yourself once we face off the jester. Both Suzy and Ralsei nodded to him, for they're ready for this as the trio entered the clown's cell. Upon entry, they noticed the clown's prison room looked so much different from the inside than the outside, because the floor looked like a rotating circus, which made Naruto feel cautious at this. Even more so from just being in here in general. He. Visitors, visitors. Now we can play. The clown began talking after their entrance, gaining their attention. Then, after you, I can play with everyone else, too. He said joyfully with a sinister laugh. It was the jester himself. So what are we playing, exactly? Ralsei asked innocently, smiling. It's just a simple numbers game. He smiled at her, and suddenly 3 sickles fell from above. Ralsei and Suzy noticed in time and barely dodged, while Naruto swiftly hopped back without much effort, but he was more on edge given this clown could potentially be chaotically unpredictable. When your HP drops to 0, you lose. He finished, laughing non-stop. So that's the kinda game you wanna play, huh? Then, I gotta warn you, Suzy brandishes her axe with a wild smirk, you're dealing with a couple of sharks. The rest followed suit and readied their weapons as well. He. Shark. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now. Let the games begin. He busted laughing, and they prepared to confront. Suddenly, the whole circus activated and started spinning. The music started playing, which signifies that the dangerous battle has commenced. Let the games begin. Naruto immediately decided to go to act and use check on the jester to find out anything about him that can give us a bit of an edge as a head start. Jevil, ATK. Def. There is no strategy to defeat the enemy. Good luck. There's no strategy in beating this jester. Oh boy, Naruto was now cautious by this lack of information, because apparently there's literally nothing about him other than his now revealed name that could tell him how they should go about beating this jester. This could prove to be problematic. Chaos, catch me if you can. Jevil laughed and started dancing to the music, targeting Naruto first. Jevil suddenly started teleporting to random places around Naruto, all the while spewing volleys of 5 spade bullets at him each time he appears, making it hard for the blonde hero to keep a steady lock on him. Holding the Sakabato in front of himself with both hands, Naruto utilizes the Gale form as he constantly swings his weapon to block and deflect the incoming projectiles, but both the angles and number of shots made it hard for him to defend against them all. At that moment, Ragger suddenly extended both ends of itself outwards and proceeded to rapidly lash around like a pair of whips to also deflect the spade bullets in coordination with its wearer. Thanks for the assist, Ragger, said Naruto gratefully. The sentient scarf brushes against his cheek in a show of affection. Man, what a badass scarf. Suzy turns to Ralsei with a teasing smirk. Still think that your scarf is just as useful as his. Ralsei turned away with a pout, keeping teasing me like that and see if I'll bake any cakes for you. The world is spinning. Seizing the moment now that Jevil wasn't attacking, Naruto quickly accesses the ACT button and saw only one option, which is pirouette. He was confused by this since this is a dance move and not exactly making any sense to do it. Then again, they're currently fighting someone who's not making sense either, so he might as well go for it. Naruto performs a spin while twirling his Sakabato at the same time. Jevil got slightly more tired, and it was just Foley. Naruto was confused to see that nothing else has happened and was wondering why when he took notice of the TP gauge, which hasn't filled much in spite of the earlier actions, and then realized something. Looks to me that I'll need to fill up the gauge more frequently if I want to use the pirouette more efficiently, thought Naruto. Jevil cackled madly. Shall we play the ring around? He conjures 10 large spade bullets appear around the trio in a circle and quickly start bounding one after the other in a clockwise spiral pattern towards them. They all took to defending themselves against the attacks, whether by blocking or dodging them. Suzy isn't exactly the most nimble of the team and so is forced to mostly cross her arms and brace herself against the projectiles, which did quite a number on her. Growling, I'm really starting to hate clowns, Suzy growled in anger. Here, catch. Naruto takes out a dark candy from the inventory and tosses it over to Suzy, eat it to heal up. Suzy held the dark candy in her hand with a slightly confused look, thanks, she ate it and felt herself recover from the damage she had received. Jevil is laughing incomprehensibly. Back with Naruto, he evaded the last wave of attacks and saw that the TP gauge had filled up quite a bit and decided to act by performing the pirouette once again, hoping something actually happens this time. Jevil got slightly more tired, and Evil felt at ease. Jevil's defense dropped. Naruto nods in approval, finally, now we're getting somewhere. My hearts go out to all you sinners, with a wave of his hand and a manic smile, Jevil calls. Fourth, multiple cubicle bombs with hearts in the center to appear in midair before having them quickly fall to the ground, then detonates into 4 hearts in a square formation rotating at the center point, which fly towards the trio, who were forced to dodge them, albeit a few managing to hit them in the process. TCH, Refectio. Naruto conjures a glyph beneath his feet to enable passive recovery as he selects ACT and was about to use pirouette once again when he notices a new addition called Hypnosis, and it seems that him as well as Ralsei and Suzy can use, although he couldn't help but wonder how exactly the latter can do that. Well, here's hoping that it's as effective as the pirouette. Upon selecting Hypnosis, Naruto narrowed his eyes as he stares intently towards Jevil, which seems to have affected the Jevil in some way. Naruto gazed strangely. Jevil's next attack weakened. Ha, ha. Let's make the Devil's Knife. Metamorphosis. It would seem that Jevil chose Naruto to be his next target as he transforms himself into a scythe, then conjures 3 more before circling around Naruto with him at the center. Comprehending the situation, Naruto switches to the storm form right as the scythes start to crisscross while rotating with him at the center, performing short dashes and somersaults to evade them, having to ensure that his timings are just right before making his move. Raga was also aiding him by extending both ends of itself to act as springs to boost his jumps while also pulling him from place to place like a grappling hook. Soon enough, the scythe stopped attacking and disappeared while Jevil reverted to normal and started dancing around in excitement due to the growing intensity of the ongoing battle. The air crackles with freedom. Naruto selected ACT and after a bit of contemplation, decided to go with pirouette this time, then performs a spin while twirling his Sakabato at the same time. Jevil got slightly more tired, and awkward. Upcoming attack will hurt rapidly. Naruto's eyes widened in shock, realized that he might have made things more difficult for the trio in this turn. Dude, why did you make him stronger? Suzy demanded. I wasn't expecting this either. Just get ready for what comes next and I'll provide healing items afterwards, Naruto replied. Pip pip, let's ride the carousel game. Jevil snapped his fingers and the trio found themselves each riding atop rows of horses that fly across the arena in a circuit. Jevil hovers before them and starts firing spade bullets in their direction. Scutum. Naruto conjures a glyph which creates several shields that hover in front of himself and the others to defend against the incoming projectiles until Jevil stopped attacking and that carousel came to an end. Everyone okay? Ralsei nods in affirmation. We're fine, Naruto. So long as you don't goof up like that again, Suzy scoffed. Naruto rolled his eyes in response. Just know that it wasn't intentional and I'll be more careful. It feels like a whirlwind. Naruto did a quick check to make sure that their HP isn't too low before opening the ACT option and this time selected Hypnosis since it's more useful compared to pirouette being so random. This time it's Suzy who brings out her axe and spins it in a way that it seems to have dazed Jevil a bit. Suzy spun something around. Jevil's next attack weakened. Having fun. Join the club. Jevil conjures another volley of cubicle bombs, except these ones have a club symbol on them and explode into club bullets which spread in a 3-way spread pattern. Compared to the heart bombs, avoiding these bombs was more manageable and they emerged largely unscathed from it. Suzy was getting rather irritated. Can't I hit this guy? He's really starting to get on my nerves with all the crazy stuff that he's doing. We can't. There are chances that we might end up provoking him to doing even more dangerous towards us. He's far different from those we've encountered before, Ralsei pointed out to her. She's right about this clown being different, he's lasting way longer than the others before him, Naruto added. Then he selected act once more and chose hypnosis again. Now it was Ralsei's turn as she steps forward and starts chanting in a prayer-like way, dazing Jevil again. Ralsei chanted something. Jevil's next attack weakened. Hearts, diamonds, I can do anything. Jevil stomps on the ground a couple of times while still dancing. This causes sharp-looking diamonds to rapidly shoot out from the ground in random locations and fly upwards. The only instance they can tell is when a spot glows white for a moment, then a diamond shoots out. This tested the trio's reflexes quite a bit and managed to survive, albeit with some damage, so Naruto passes out some dark burgers while he took a few dark candies for himself so they could heal. Smells like chaos. These exchanges between them and Jevil, as the mad clown would repetitively reuse these moves at varying intensity and duration, then Naruto would provide healing items, or that Ralsei casts healing spells just so they could remain standing on their feet, and using hypnosis to tire Jevil, which is taking a while to do so. You kids are really keeping up. Enuche. I never had such fun. A beauty is joying in my heart. Even Devil's Knife is smiling. It's so exciting I can't take it. Jevil cackled gleefully, seeing how the participants to his game are still managing to hold on, which reminds him of someone. So glad that trying to bust us up is so much fun for you, said Suzy sarcastically. Chaos Bomb was prepared for you. Seeing this made Naruto become tense as Jevil smirks at them. This is it, boys and girls. See ya. Jevil raises a hand above his head, then snaps his fingers to perform his next attack. The moment Naruto saw the attack, he could understand why it's called the Chaos Bomb. It turned out to be practically a mixed bag of heart bombs, spade bombs and club bombs, with even a new addition of diamond bombs. Realizing that they can't possibly dodge them all without getting hit, Naruto had Raga reach out and pull both Ralsei and Suzy close to himself as he uses one of his glyphs, VOICEOVER. He holds his hands in front of him to conjure a glyph which transforms into a larger and stronger version of the regular shield glyph. Naruto grabs hold of the shield and braces himself for the oncoming barrage of projectiles, and sure enough, they started impacting against the shield with him holding fast the best he could. The barrage continued for some time until it finally stopped, enabling to seize the opportunity to act, and had Ralsei cast another hypnosis on Jevil. Enough. You kids tired me up. Jevil cried out. Finally, I was seconds away from pummeling ya if you didn't call it quits, said Suzy as she felt relieved that the battle is finally over. However, something terrible is coming. Seeing this gave Naruto a bad feeling, even more so when he saw the wild grin on Jevil's face. It reminded him of when he and Frisk faced Asriel in his Angel of Hyperdeath form, or when he faced Chara's hate by himself. Kidding. Here's my final chaos. Bye-bye. Jevil disappeared before their eyes and the entire place darkened. This made them have a bad feeling that something very dangerous is about to happen. Sure enough, giant versions of the Devil's Knife began falling from above down towards them. They quickly darted out of the way, only to witness that the duplicates of the Devil's Knife would create pillars of white light the moment they hit the ground. At that moment, more of the Devil Knives began all over the place like it's raining, and the trio were forced to dodge the best they could. Then Jevil reappeared in the air above them, looking down with a crazed smile. This is the true and neo chaos. He disappeared again. Then the trio took note of a large shadow looming over them and looked up, only for their eyes to widen in shock and disbelief, the reason being that a massive version of the Devil's Knife is falling towards them. Isn't this kind of stuff only seen in movies and cartoons? Asked Suzy fearfully. I don't understand this either. Even Ralsei was feeling uncertain and doesn't know they can face this. Calling upon his determination while putting away his Sakabato, Naruto uses one of his stronger glyphs, Melioskudum. He conjures the strongest of his shield glyphs and reinforces it with his determination. Get behind me. Suzy and Ralsei immediately do so as Naruto braces himself, grunting from the impact. He felt himself being pushed back, his feet digging into the ground and forming small trenches as he struggles to hold back the attack. He would have been pushed back further if not for Suzy and Ralsei providing support by pushing his body and serving as anchor points. "Come on man, you got this," said Suzy, actually being supportive. "I know you can do it," said Ralsei, also adding a similar input. "I'm trying." Naruto could barely get the words out as he struggles to defend against the giant devil's knife before everything went white, which forced him to close his eyes. Naruto opened his eyes to find that he's almost out of HP if he hadn't used endurance at the last moment to fortify himself. He turned to check on the others and become worried once he saw what has happened to them. Suzy also managed to hang in there, albeit barely, but Ralsei was completely knocked out since she wasn't exactly meant to take serious hits like this one. "After this, I'll never to able to look at clowns the same way," Suzy grumbled in anger. "That makes two of us, Refectio." Naruto conjures a glyph beneath Suzy and Ralsei to help them recover while taking out a revive mint and a spin cake from the inventory. "Take these to revive Ralsei and heal yourselves." "And what about you?" asked Suzy confusedly. Naruto looked back at Jevil to see the mad jester dancing around so quickly that he's leaving behind afterimages and frowned in annoyance before answering, "For once I'm going to do things your way and beat that clown into SBMSN." Suzy blinked, taking a moment to understand what he had just said. "Really? You're planning to fight that guy? I can understand why you're surprised to hear that, being all goody-goody in your eyes. But it doesn't mean I'll keep holding back when my friends are in danger," Naruto explained. "Yeah, I learnt that the hard way," Suzy muttered lowly. "Anyways, watch over Ralsei while I deal with this clown." Naruto rose to his feet and turned to start walking towards Jevil while eating the last dark burger to heal himself. Jevil saw him coming and giggled, "He, you wanna keep playing the game? That makes me so happy." "Humph, you can say it's something like that, but," Naruto unsheathes his sakubato whilst calling upon his determination fully. His eyes radiate with white flaming aura, with his spiky blonde hair changing color to white, and white tribal markings appearing on his clothes. "I'm determined to win. This is going to be so much fun." Jevil calls upon his devil's knife with maddening glee as they stared at each other intently. In his eagerness, Jevil lunges at Naruto, who stands at the ready and slashes with his devil's knife. The blonde immediately reacted as he employs the gale form and rapidly swings his sakubato to deflect the incoming slashes from the mad jester's scythe's razor-sharp blade, refusing to let it so much as nick his skin. Then he quickly responded with a counter. "Numa." He thrusts a free hand forward to conjure a glyph that launches a powerful squall which sends Jevil flying away from him before following up with another attack. "Grando." He forms a blue glyph that launches a barrage of ice spikes towards his opponent. Jevil twisted his body in midair and skillfully dodged the ice spikes. He. "Strong winds, cold ice. Quite the weatherman you are." He proceeds to teleport to random places around Naruto while rapidly spewing volleys of spade bullets at him. Naruto darts through the gaps in between the incoming projectiles while also deflecting some that strayed too close to him with his sakubato. Feeling his soul pulse and alert about something, Naruto swiftly spun and clashes his katana with the mad jester's gleaming scythe. Blades locked in a struggle against each other for a bit before both sides broke away from each other for a momentary respite. He. Jevil snaps his fingers to summon for duplicates of the devil's knife to float around Naruto in an orbit. The person himself stood in place with eyes narrowed in focus as he waited for his opponent to make the first move. Sure enough, Jevil acted first as he remotely commands the scythes to attack. Switching back to the gale form, Naruto constantly turns to deflect any of the scythes coming his way until all four tried to attack him at the same time. He quickly jumps straight up into the air to evade the blades, then casts a grandoglyph below him to encase them in ice, which he shatters with a fierce punch enhanced with determination. Turning to face the crazy clown only to find that he had just conjured a lot of heart bombs, spade bombs and club bombs which start to drop towards him from above. "Gonna have to shoot those bombs out from the sky before they get any closer." Arcus, he conjures a glyph which creates about 6 bows with 3 hovering at either side of him. Naruto focuses on the approaching bombs, which causes the bows to respond by aiming at them with arrows knocked before firing to destroy the all, then disappearing afterwards. Using endeavor to rapidly close the gap between himself and Jevil, Naruto unleashed a barrage of strikes which usually causes Jevil's head to bounce out of his body with a spring attached while still cackling madly. While the battle is ongoing, Suzy manages to revive Ralsei with the items given to her by Naruto. The princess is still a bit dazed but recovering nonetheless as she turns to speak to Suzy. What happened? The last thing I recall is when we tried to defend against that attack. Hearing the sound of fighting, Ralsei looked over and was surprised upon seeing Naruto taking Jevil on by himself. Why is Naruto fighting? Suzy shrugged in response. Turns out that doing things peaceful style wasn't working on that crazy clown that much. So he decided to beat him to SBMSN. But still. Look, I get what you're trying to say, but remember that this is the same guy who tried to hit us with a giant version of his scythe earlier, if not for Blondie trying to protect us from it. Plus I bet that he didn't want you to get any more hurt than you already were, which is why he's doing this. Ralsei didn't respond, but it didn't change the fact that she's worried about him. She knows that Naruto isn't as eager to fight like Suzy does. Those times she had seen him fight was due to his negative emotions influencing him strongly. But looking at him now, the princess could tell that this time isn't the case, as Naruto isn't with anger but rather focused with the intent to defeat his opponent as effectively as possible. Please be okay, Naruto. Ralsei could only hope that Naruto emerges from the battle alive and she could heal him of his injuries by the time she recovers mostly. Back with the aforementioned person, he was quite occupied engaging the opponent, who seems to grow more excited with each clash exchanged between them. Recalling a particular technique from the Skeleton Brothers, Naruto concentrated with his soul changing colors from red to blue as he moved a hand out towards Jevil, with the darkness suddenly finding himself enshrouded in a blue aura and completely immobilized. Gotcha, Voluminato. Naruto concentrates intently to create a white orb of light, channeling more determination into it to enlarge in size, which he then launches at his target, exploding upon impact. Naruto stood ready, waiting for the smoke cloud to clear so as to make sure whether or not the mad jester is down for the count. However, the smoke was suddenly, as he soon found himself surrounded numerous duplicates of Jevil as they all cackled in unison. I can do anything. They all attack simultaneously with their scythes. Naruto quickly calls upon the shield of determination and encased himself with it in the form of a red dome. The shield held fast, but then thin cracks began to form on it. Naruto saw this and released a radial burst of determination to knock the doppelgangers away from him before it got destroyed. Naruto looks around to see the doppelgangers grinning at him. I see, this is how you want to play then. In that case, he holds out the Sakabato, then takes out the spooky sword from the inventory as he spun both weapons before clanging the blades together above his head to create sparks, then took a combat stance with the white aura in his eyes flaring once more. I'll shift things to a higher gear. In response to his words, the Jevil doppelgangers rush at Naruto and attack with their devil's knives. The blonde utilizes the storm form as well as channeling determination throughout his body to enhance physical abilities. He constantly stayed on the move, attacking and defending with a flurry of horizontal and vertical slashes against the oncoming threat as he would twirl the spooky sword in hand to hold it in a reverse grip to deflect more effectively before launching counterattacks to lower the number of doppelgangers. His soul pulses to alert Naruto of a pincer attack of two Jevil doppelgangers rapidly closing in from the front and the back. At the last moment, Naruto uses endeavor to leap straight up into the air for them to miss before he propelled himself back down to the ground and land whilst performing a 360 spinning slash to take them both out. Naruto turned to face who he guesses to be the original Jevil. There's still the choice of putting a stop to all this. Jevil merely cackles in response, hee. Chaos is fun, fun is chaos. Alright then you shouldn't complain when I bring this game to an end. Union Fulgur. Naruto conjures a glyph that creates a very large sphere of lightning hovering above his head as it constantly releases multiple bolts of electricity at the doppelgangers until there were none left save for the original Jevil, who dodges the lightning bolts. Then he throws his devil's knife straight at the lightning sphere and manages to destroy it before flying back into the jester's hand with a look of glee on his face. I'm really starting to dislike clowns. Naruto glanced down to see the familiar glowing spots and already took off as diamonds began shooting out of the ground, darting from side to side to evade them. Locking onto the mad jester, Naruto channeled the essence of determination to his feet for a burst of speed as he dashes right up to Jevil. Blade rush. He attacked with a series of dual slashes, releasing blasts of energy with each strike before ending with a cross slash which sends Jevil flying. Jevil got back to his feet. Still looks rearing to go, you getting me all excited again. Time for a grand finale. Bye-bye. Hearing those words, Naruto got a nagging suspicion about what the mad jester plans to do. Sure enough, Jevil disappeared with the area becoming dark just like before, and duplicates of the devil's knife began raining down from above with Naruto already on the move and avoiding them. Oh no, he's about to use that attack again, said Rousei worriedly. Suzy frowned as well. I'm sure that he's got something planned for it, I think. Jevil reappears in the air, hovering over Naruto. This is the true and Neo chaos. He disappears like before and again summons a massive version of the devil's knife which he sends falling towards him. Naruto frowns at this. He could barely hold it back, and that was when he wasn't going all out, plus dodging the weapon is likely to hurt Rousei and Suzy with its aftershock. So if he can barely block it and can't afford to dodge, then I'll just have to push it back. Naruto's soul surged in resonance with his strong emotions as a large number of magical circles around him while gathering every ounce of magic he has. Then the magic circles moved to position themselves in front of him in an ascending diagonal position towards the devil's knife. This is it, Omega Beam. His soul glows brightly as it fires a white energy beam that grew in size each time it went through a magic circle which collided with the giant scythe. Both sides struggle for depths as the two combatants face each other, Jevil with a crazed grin and Naruto with a look of determination. Naruto may not know or frankly not care for the reason why Jevil fights, but he knows his own reason clearly, one that he had initially lost in the past but managed to regain to protect those who cannot protect themselves and to become the sword and shield that protect his loved ones. With a loud roar, Naruto increased the output, which actually started pushing the giant scythe back before breaking through and finally slamming into Jevil, engulfing him in the attack before he crashed to the ground and forming a crater upon impact. Naruto dropped down on one knee, panting heavily with fatigue and the white flaming aura in his eyes flicking weakly due to him having been using powerful techniques back-to-back just so he could take down that crazy clown. Suzy watched all this from within the barrier with awe. She never would have thought that Naruto was capable of this feat. Whoa, he really went to town on that guy. Is it finally over? Asked Rousei nervously, concerned that Naruto would be too exhausted to continue if that weren't to be the case. If he's got any sanity left in that crazy head of his, he'd better stay down, Naruto grumbled lowly, watching the smoke in the crater gradually diminishing to reveal Jevil, who's battered and bruised all over but no longer jumping around, just standing there and staring at the trio intently. Jevil began to chuckle in amusement. AHHA. What fun. You're fast, strong. But there are yet faster, yet stronger. The hand of the knight is drifting forward. Soon, the queen returns, and hell's roar bubbles from the depths. Lightners, can you stop it? Naruto frowned at the mad jester's words. On one hand he seemed to be talking nonsense, but on the other hand, he seems to be warning them that things won't be ending after they confronted the king and sealed the fountain. Is he saying that they need to be better prepared against enemies much stronger than him? Jevil continues to cackle madly. He. Either way, a mischief, a chaos. Lightners. From inside your little cell. Take me and do your strongest dash. The mad jester suddenly transforms himself into the devil's knife and floats over to Naruto along with two other items. Naruto puts away the Sakabato and spooky sword before cautiously taking the items and examining them closely to see what they are. Devil's knife, a skull emblazoned scythe axe. Reduces rude busters cost by 10%. Jevil's tail, a J-shaped tail that gives you devil energy. Shadow crystal, a sharp shadow moves like water in the hand. Naruto looks at the first two items with a small frown on his face. He could sense that they're more alive compared to Rager. Then there's the shadow crystal. There's something about it that he's not sure he could figure out on his own and would need find someone who would know about it, but at a later time. Hearing footsteps, Naruto looked back to see Suzy and Rousei running up to him with the latter already examining him all over and preparing to cast a healing spell out of worry. Naruto, are you okay? Anything broken? Please hold still while I heal you. Rousei kept firing inquiries and not even waiting for answers as she continues to fret over him. Rousei, please calm down. I don't mind you healing me, but take it easy since I'm aching all over right now, said Naruto, trying to calm the princess but to no avail. So, what happened to that crazy clown? Asked Suzy curiously, seeing no sign of the darkner. He pretty much turned into these. Naruto held out the devil's knife and the Jevelstale for them to see, telling us to use them and also warned that we'll be encountering enemies much stronger than him. That's rather worrying to hear, said Ralsei with concern. Hey, if he says there are guys stronger than him, Suzy took the devil's knife and held it up with a smirk, might as well put this to good use. We can talk more about this at a later time after we get out of here. Naruto stood up fully, still feeling some aches here and there but knows that they'll go away once he accesses a save point. Where to next? Asked Ralsei. To Seam's shop, might as well let him know what happened to Jevel since they know each other. Suzy shrugs in response, well, the old geezer thought that we were gonna die, let's go show him how wrong he is. After leaving the cell, getting a thorough healing from a save point, then using a warp door to transport themselves to the fields, Naruto and the others made their way over to Seam's shop and went inside to speak with the shopkeeper himself. Oh, fancy seeing you three again. Have you gone and opened the cell yet? Do tell me what happened when you returned, that is if you survived to tell the tale, said Seam rather cynically. Before breaking the news to him, Naruto decided to ask him more about the mad jester. What can you tell us about Jevel? Seam hummed thoughtfully, he was quite the funny little man. He was once the court jester while I was the court magician. Were you two friends? Asked Ralsei curiously. A friend? Could I consider him a friend? Perhaps, perhaps not. But he was the only one to match me in the games we used to play in the past. Then one day, he met someone strange and ever since then, began to change. He started saying things that didn't make sense but also did not make any sense either. I know what you mean, thought Naruto, recalling his encounter with the jester himself. Seam continued, soon, he began to see this world as a game and everyone as the participants. As the court mage and his only companion, I was left with no other choice but to lock him away, or rather lock ourselves away from his perspective. Ever since then, those strange words of his have stuck inside my cotton and my view of the world became darker, much darker. Looking back on these old memories, perhaps I miss playing games with and wonder if things might have gone differently if I hadn't been ordered to lock him up. Well, it would come as a surprise to you, but we already met with Jevel and managed to beat him. Naruto finally broke the news to him. Seam was indeed taken aback with surprise. You defeated him. You really defeated him. Suzy held up the devil's knife for him to see. Got your proof right here. Still think we're joshing? I see, perhaps you three may truly be heroes, after all. But Jevel was just a taste of what you'll face from now on. One day soon you'll also begin to realize the futility of your actions. Naruto frowns in response, then we'll just have to prove to you otherwise, like when you thought that we would lose to Jevel. Seam chuckles in amusement, ha ha ha, I'll wait until when that time comes. Feel free to come back here so I'll make you some tea so we can toast to the end of the world. Let's get out of here before we end up as senile as him, said Suzy with annoyance. Yeah, let's go. Naruto bade the shopkeeper farewell before they exited from the shop. Is there anything else to do, or are we going to confront the king now? Asked Ralsei curiously. Naruto hummed for a moment before giving his answer. We'll be going to confront the king. It's time that we settle things. Suzy smirks in response. It's about time. Lancer's already gone on ahead to speak to his dad, so we'd better get there before anything messed up happens. Alright then, let's get moving. With that said, the trio began making their way back to the card castle in order to finally confront the king and seal the fountain so Naruto and Suzy could finally go home to the real world. After a chaotic and intense battle with Jevel the crazed jester, then paying a visit to Seam's shop and tell him about what happened to Jevel, as well as restocking a few healing items, and lastly taking a break for a bit to rest up, the FUNN gang headed back to the card castle via warp door not too long ago. As they passed through the entrance of the castle, neither Naruto, Suzy nor Ralsei said a word as they entered the elevator and set it to the 5th floor. The elevator doors closed and proceeded to ascend to the designated floor. The reason for the trio's silence is because they know that the time for them to finally confront the king himself and put an end to his reign of tyranny and close off the dark fountain has come. No words needed to be said, for they knew the stakes are high, as the only thing standing between them closing off the fountain and returning back home to the light world is the king himself. Naruto sighed mentally, as this scenario is eerily similar to when he, Frisk and Nikken confronted Ascari. But unlike the kind king of the monsters, Naruto feels that things might become tense when they meet this king whom the Darkners themselves fear, and even Lancer imprisoned them as a way to protect them from him, which goes to show the stark contrast between the two kings. One is overly kind while the other is biased and tyrannical. He was snapped out of his thoughts as the elevator slowed to a stop when it arrives at the destination. Then the elevator doors opened for the FUNN gang to exit through. The trio left the elevator and went straight to the stairway, then proceeded through the corridor which took them to the king's throne room, which completely trashed up. Naruto immediately went over to the save point and updated his save file, knowing that they're about to face the final boss, which is the tyrannical ruler and father of Lancer, that is the king. "Oh my, what could have happened here?" asked Ralsei worriedly. "Looks to me like a fight happened here." Naruto surveyed the area with narrowed eyes. "It must have been when the king took over this world. Guess he's not big on cleanliness since he left things like this," Suzy commented sarcastically. Seeing that there's nothing more of interest, the gang made their way over to the dark corridor where the king awaits. This is it. This is where their adventure ends once they go through and confront the king. "Well, this is it. We finally made it. Beyond this dark corridor is where the king is most likely to be," Naruto spoke. Suzy and Ralsei didn't say a word as they listened to Naruto. "There's nothing left for us to be delayed from. We've reached the end of our journey and we're fully prepared to deal with the king himself. Once we pass through, there's no turning back. Stopping the king, sealing the fountain and returning home to the light world is well within our reach. Now before we go, do either of you two have any second thoughts, need something to take care of first, or anything in general? Because if so, speak up and do so now." He turned back to them, awaiting their response, as both Suzy and Ralsei didn't say a word for a moment. Then Suzy spoke up. "Nah, I'm good here. Let's just hurry up and get this guy so we can go home." "I'm fine too. We've come this far so we can't back out now. Stopping the king is crucial in order to get past him and seal the fountain without interference." "We can do this," Ralsei spoke with determination and conviction, for she knows they're nearing the edge of ending their journey and closing off the dark fountain. She believes they can do this without fail. She's sure of it. Naruto stared at them for a moment before nodding in approval of their response of conviction. "Glad to hear it. From this point forward, the king is our only obstacle of what stands between us and the dark fountain, as well our freedom of returning home to the light world. We cannot afford any errors here. The king must be stopped if we are to succeed. So are you both ready to put an end to the king's reign once and for all?" "Hell yeah, I'm ready / I'm ready when you are." Both Suzy and Ralsei spoke together, as both are clearly ready to face the king and end his tyrannical rule. He smiled at this before speaking, "Then let's go." The trio proceeds through the dark corridor together. As they move forward through the next corridor with torches illuminating through the halls, they approach the end of the corridor where it leads outside where the king awaits. "Here we go. We've finally reached the end of our journey now. All that's left is to confront the king and put an end to his tyranny in order for us to seal and close the dark fountain for good. This will be our final battle and we'll have to be prepared for whatever the king will throw at us. Our time is now," Naruto thought with a serious look on his face as he led Suzy and Ralsei to the end of this corridor, and soon they would meet face to face with the tyrannical king. The thought of facing the king and sealing the dark fountain for good in order to return home to the light world with Suzy fills him with determination. As the trio reached outside, the atmosphere was cold as the wind blew while nothing else made a sound. It felt uncomfortable and unnerving, but far from deterring them from making their way all the way up here. A few more steps forward and they spotted someone familiar in the distance. Lancer could be seen there, walking towards a menacingly dark figure whose back is facing him. "Hey, there's Lancer," Suzy immediately said. Naruto raised a hand to stop them from going any further so Lancer could have a private talk with the figure, who they assumed is the king and his father. The trio couldn't make out his appearance due to the distance, but he looked rather threatening even from where they're standing. "Father!" the boy happily called out. "Lancer, my son. Have you dispatched the lighteners, as I commanded?" The king spoke coldly, barely showing any emotion and not even turning around to look at the young prince. "And no, but I did even better." He began. "It turns out we don't actually have to fight them. They said they would just talk to you," and, he continued before being interrupted. "They're alive." The king stomped a foot on the ground, making a giant thud that stunned everyone for a second. "Yes, and I think you'll like them a lot. There's Susie, she's very purple and strong, and—" "Where are they now?" the king demanded, furious and completely taken aback by the fact that they weren't killed earlier. Both of them turned around to see the trio staring at them silently. "Hey," Susie greeted him casually with a small wave of her hand. "It's nice to meet you." Ralsei introduced herself politely while Naruto simply stood there without saying a word. The king stood there silently in an anticlimactic manner before turning his attention to Lancer. "Lancer, my son. Do you remember what I told you?" He slowly walked to his son and grabbed him by the shoulder gently. Don't get too attached." The prince hesitated, now starting to get nervous. "You have failed. They have poisoned you with their sentimentality. Free yourself, Lancer. They care not for you. Their only goal is to destroy our glorious fountain. The king disappointedly explained. Lancer stared at him in shock. "And no they aren't," he barely spoke. "What did you say?" The king shouted furiously and lifted Lancer in the air by the scruff of his neck, alarming everyone by his unexpected action. "Let him go." Susie stepped forward in defense of Lancer, brandishing her axe without hesitation and threatened the Dark King. Ha 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 ha, you want me to let him go?" He raised his voice and held the boy tighter. He then turned Lancer around so they could see how much he struggled. "Then how about this? I'll drop him off the edge and let him splatter unless you all kneel and learn your place." Through the shadow that was his figure, a grin could be seen. "What will it be, lighteners? You're bluffing. You wouldn't dare drop your own son off the edge and let him die. You couldn't be that cruel to go through with it." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the king as he called out on his bluff. "Oh really? You believe I wouldn't do it simply because you think I'm not cruel enough? Let's test that theory of yours, Lightner." The king had an evil grin on his face through the shadow as he brought Lancer over to the edge, dangling him dangerously to show that he wasn't bluffing. Father. Lancer was now beyond shocked and downright terrified at his own father endangering his life as he's seconds away from getting dropped. "Lancer!" Susie shouts in worry while Ralsei is completely stunned and terrified at the cruelty that the king is displaying in front of them. "So Lightner, still think that I'm not cruel enough to go through with dropping my son off this edge? Am I?" The king mocked Naruto as he held his son's life from the edge of his castle. Naruto gritted his teeth in anger at what he's witnessing before him right now. This Darkner is willing to put his own son's life at risk just to prove his point. Hearing stories about him from others had long since painted the impression of him being biased, paranoid and selfish, but he failed to foresee just how far he's willing to go, having tried to even make Lancer share his beliefs of hating all lighteners. The king then sneered at the trio. "So, what will it be, lighteners?" Susie took several steps back whilst putting away her axe, both her and Ralsei glancing at Naruto, whose mind was racing for a way out of this situation. Lancer grew increasingly worried, seeing how they're becoming less aggressive and more likely to comply with his father's demands because of him and what it would result in. Don't listen to him. Hill. However, they bowed on one knee. But while doing so, Naruto was planning something while knowing it to be a risky gamble, but he'll have to go for it as he places an open palm on the floor and focuses his sight on the king's feet without him noticing. King sneers gleefully. "Now watch, Lancer." He waved his free hand, conjuring multiple spade bullets over the trio and preparing to launch them with the intent to kill. See what happens when you befriend lightners. At that moment, Naruto made his move, torpor. Suddenly a blue glyph materializes beneath the king's feet and blue arcs of lightning shoot out and wrap around his body, taking him completely by surprise, which causes the spades to disappear, but it also causes the king to release his hold on Lancer, who starts falling. Lancer! Suzy cries out in fear, seeing him fall. Naruto stretches out a hand and calls out, "Catch him now, Ragger." He barely finished giving out the command that the scarf sharply extends to shoot past the king and down to wrap around Lancer in time to save him before pulling him back up and over to their side. "Are you okay, Lancer?" "Why yeah, that was kinda scary and also fun," said Lancer, who was scared at first then became excited. Not exactly the best time to start developing a liking for bungee jumping, thought Naruto with a sweat drop. Suzy let out a sigh of relief but then started glaring at the king with anger. "Hey man, how about you get outta here so we could have that chat with your old man? Don't want him to have any more bright ideas involving you." "Oh okay," Lancer ran off, albeit hesitantly. At that moment, the king managed to break free from the bindings of the glyph and saw Lancer leaving. You traitor. Come back here." Naruto narrowed his eyes at him as he called upon the Sakabato. "You got some nerve calling your own flesh and blood a traitor after trying to hold him hostage against us. It's rather you who's the traitor because you've just betrayed your son's trust in you. How could you do such a thing? A family bond is supposed to be precious," said Ralsei, still shocked at what the king tried to do. Suzy calls back her axe, ready to lunge at the king at any moment. "DMN right, you got no right to call yourself a king yet alone a father. Just who the hell do you think you are?" Ha, the king began to chuckle darkly. "To my people, I am a hero, but to you?" Then he fully revealed himself to the trio. The king shares multiple features with his son Lancer, but what differentiates him from Lancer is the three-spiked crown on his head, the enormous mouth with more square-shaped teeth compared to the curved fong-shaped ones in the mouth on his face, on his large stomach shaped like a blue spade. "I'm the bad guy." King blocked the way. This is it. The final battle has now begun as the heroes prepare themselves to fight against Lancer's evil tyrannical ruler and terrible father, the King of Spades himself. The time is now to finally put an end to his reign over this world for good. Naruto looked at his allies and nodded with confidence, mentally and physically prepared, and he's ready to defeat the king altogether. Same goes for his allies. He started off with going to act and check on the king to see what kind of stats he has while having both Suzy and Ralsei defend themselves before deciding on what he'll do next from here. King, ATK, 8DF, 0. Abandoned by the Lightners, his heart became cracked with hatred. He cannot be reasoned with, but don't give up. No surprise there, the king can't be reasoned with, but that has never stopped me before. Despite how much of a scumbag the Spade King is, he was abandoned by the Lightners, which made him like this, unfortunately. We'll try to talk him out of this. But if he won't listen, then we'll have to resort to violence, which will be our last resort, thought Naruto, already cooking up plans on how to potentially deal with the king. "How dare you come here, Lightners?" the king said as he summoned up spade projectiles and targeted at Naruto, which he brandishes the Sakabato to quickly and skillfully deflect the spade projectiles away from him without issue until the king eventually stopped his attack. Darkness pours from the fountain. Naruto went over to ACT and noticed that there's only talk options for himself, Suzy and Ralsei. He decided to try to talk to the king as he selected that option for himself while having both Suzy and Ralsei be on the defensive yet again. "Listen king, there's no need for such senseless acts of violence against each other. Whatever grudge you had with the previous Lightners that abandoned you, we are not like that. There's still time for you to stop this now before things get ugly. We can help you." Naruto tried reasoning with the king in hopes he would listen. Unfortunately, his words didn't move the soulless king. "Silence, Lightbrightener. Your very existence goes against our own by the Knight's will. I shall shatter your heart to pieces." He grinned evilly. "Unfortunately, you will find that task to be extremely difficult to accomplish, but by all means, go ahead and try. You won't get far. Naruto didn't feel discouraged in the slightest at what the King of Spades had said to him despite being threatened. After everything he has been through since his adventures in the underground, genocide timeline and now the dark world. Every battle and all those bonding experiences, no threat could stop his will. This inspired Naruto to motivate his team to move forward as he suddenly felt a familiar yet new information flow into his mind. Your will is changing. Talk became courage. You, that left us in the shadows, strpped of meaning you dare return to torment us once again. The king said as he summoned several heart-shaped spears at Naruto once more in different directions, carefully aiming them at his soul. They were slow enough to be dodged as Naruto didn't have much issue evading them with ease. King's mouth gave a berserk smile. Naruto immediately ordered Suzy to try to talk to the king as he went and select her to give it a shot for its return next since his attempt to reason with the tyrant has failed. Alright, listen up. Lancer's my friend. So if we can get by without hurting you, then, Suzy tried to explain, worried about Lancer but once again the king refused to accept the request. If I perish, so be it. Show my son the monster you really are. He laughed and spun his weapon, preparing to attack. Alright, you wanna see what I can do, huh? Suzy's will began changing. Motivated by anger, she desired to prove her strength. Even though Naruto wouldn't allow it. Suzy's will is changing. Talk became Red Buster. This time the king threw the spear tongue itself at Naruto's soul once again. It flew through the air and hit the soul straight in the center. Naruto immediately lost his balance with the impact as it caught him off guard by this sudden action. The pain of the soul being struck was like getting stabbed by a knife. A very uncomfortable and painful feeling he'd experienced before when facing Chara if his time at the genocide timeline was anything to go by. Especially when getting pierced to death by Sans bone attack in order for him to stop Chara through the game over screen. Never thought he would ever experience death again at an early age, which by all accounts was not a very comforting feeling to experience in his life. And he thought. Getting killed for the first time along with Frisk and Nikken by Israel in his god of hyperdeath form was bad, but at least Frisk and Nikken were quickly revived back and it wasn't permanent due to him and Frisk possessing determination, the strongest soul trait that out of the known 6 traits humans could have. However, the king's attack wasn't over. He began by summoning a line of spades in its direction. Then he pushed the spear tongue upwards and downwards in a CYCL in an attempt to confuse Naruto as to how he could dodge the attacks. The soul itself was pushed as the spear moved. With little to do, Naruto tried his best to move it slightly to the sides by narrowly reaching gaps between each projectile. After causing enough suffering, the Spade King pulled the spear back to him, releasing the soul in the act. Naruto widened and knelt for a couple of seconds to catch his breath as the King of Spades smiled, enjoying every moment of his suffering. King's mouth gave a berserk smile. You're going to regret that stunt of yours for attacking me like that, Naruto warned the king, to which he didn't heed his words as he scoffed at him. Oh, I'm going to do more than just simply piercing you, Lightner. I can guarantee you that. The king coldly promised him more pain would soon fall upon him and his friends. That much is certain. Ralsei, concerned by the Chaos King's cruel acts and speech, decided to try and talk with him too after Naruto asked her to, since she's last to make the attempt, despite how useless it was proven before in his mind at this point. You might not realize it, but this is a world where you don't have to fight. I know that if we try, we can all find another way. She smiled and tried to soften the menacing enemy. Such simple-minded platitudes, he looked at Ralsei in shock at her words. A shame you will not live to realize your own naivety. Now, perish with the pathetic Lightners you worship. Ralsei merely shook her head in refusal. Sorry, my friends and I aren't going anywhere. This was the moment which she had waited her whole life. With new friends by her side, she would never give up. Ralsei's will is changing. Talk became dual heel. The gang felt their souls resonate in unison. The connection that this adventure has forged made them stronger when united, and so their powers grew. Naruto, as the leader, motivated and united them, keeping them moving forward. Suzy, as the violent one, could now focus her strength on an even stronger blow. And Ralsei, as the kind healer, was able to heal them all at once. Not even the king's malicious intentions could scare them. Begone. We have found a fresh purpose, the evil tyrant spoke as he's now focused on targeting everyone as he entraps the soul within a square of spikes so it couldn't escape. He then began to move it around so the spikes would stab the red heart. Naruto tried to avoid the schemes by moving in all directions but accidentally moved too fast and everyone got damaged in the process as the king's attack stopped. The battlefield is rumbling. Realizing the king couldn't be reasoned with, Naruto decided that they need to tire him out a bit. He encouraged his team, making them defend better as Naruto went over to act and selected courage, which takes up 25% of TP while having his team defend themselves. Luckily, the TP meter was up to max full bar so he and his team are fully prepared. Unfortunately, he couldn't defend himself if he wanted to boost his teammates, which left him more vulnerable, but that's the least of his concerns. For the night has appeared. The night that pulls the fountains from the earth. Holy fountains, whose shadows are creating a new world, our world. The king laughed as he threw his spear tongue at Naruto, but this time it's crimson red, piercing his soul once again, making him grunt at the sharp pain as he was forced to move as the square box with spikes appeared around him and dragged the box wherever the red spear tongue goes to the destination of the red heart in order to confuse his soul. Naruto was forced to move his movements through the spiked box without making any errors, which it was very difficult to avoid taking damage but narrowly managed, much to the Spade King's frustration as the tyrant stopped the attack, freeing the human lightner's soul. Darkness pours from the fountain. He was getting a bit annoyed with getting pierced not once but twice by the king's weird spear tongue thing from his stomach mouth and being forced against his will to move around while having to avoid taking damage, which is starting to seriously get on his nerves. It's like getting forcefully pierced by Scorpion's kunai, minus the "get over here" lines the king is making out to be. Nonetheless, nothing has changed as Naruto had everyone to defend themselves again and he went with courage again to empower them with their defense being strengthened once again. Soon this world shall be blanketed in darkness and darkness shall rule it. Then, you may see what it is like to live in despair. The king grinned with enthusiasm as he closed his fist with satisfaction. Now, enough talk. Fall before the chain of justice. He then threw his crimson red spear tongue at Naruto's soul yet again as the human lightner got pierced by the red spear tongue, making the pain worse from getting pierced 3 times now, but the king wasn't done yet. Naruto gets boxed in full of spikes like the king's last attack, but this time, this variant involves him summoning spades as obstacles as the background darkness to cover to spades, which makes this attack extremely difficult to avoid as the box drags all over directions, forcing Naruto to follow along its directions. Unfortunately, this attack was too challenging to avoid. Naruto got hit a few times as he struggled through it, which made the king evilly laugh at his struggles before ending his attack while watching the human lightner suffer in satisfaction. King's mouths babble indecipherably. Seeing this, Ralsei quickly casts dual heal with the TP they had gathered from the ongoing battle after Naruto told her to use dual heal on all of them, mainly himself. She lifted her hand in the air and cured the trio of most of the pain they felt before. Naruto thanked Ralsei with a slight smile before glaring at the enemy once more. "Alright, that does it. We tried to be reasonable and friendly despite your cruel actions, but enough is enough. You want to be difficult, then so be it. You forced my hand," Naruto said with anger as he turned over to his teammates. "Suzy, you have the green light to use violence now. We tried taking the peaceful way, now we're doing it the violent way. So have at it, but don't kill him. Ralsei, I need you to remain on the defensive and use your healing magic to keep us in the fight. We still have our healing items, but those are our last resort, so it's best that we conserve them if we can help it. Finally, I can put that wannabe king in his place." Suzy grinned savagely. She finally gets to fight like she's always wanted, doubly so with what the king tried to do to Lancer earlier. Ralsei nodded to Naruto in affirmation but felt a bit saddened that their attempt at reasoning with the king ended in failure. Naruto noticed this and cheered her up. "I understand this isn't how you wanted things to go, but the king left us with no other choice. I gave him a fair and reasonable chance to stop this fight but he refused to listen, even to you and Susie. I'm sorry but there's nothing we can do. If words won't get him to stop then we'll just have to make him stop through our actions. It's the only way. She was silent for a moment before nodding in understanding at his words since he's right. There's no other way around this outcome. She had hoped they wouldn't resort to violence but it seems being a pacifistic wouldn't end all fights as she suspected but had hoped it would be possible. Unfortunately it's not the case. I understand. I know it was a long shot but I'm grateful that both you and Susie at least tried. I'll do whatever I can to keep you both in battle for as long as possible. Ralsei declared as she knew the stakes were higher now since words weren't enough to persuade the king. Naruto nodded to her before turning to face the king who just sneered at them cruelly. Alright king, you were given a fair chance. Since you refused to listen to reason, then you left us no choice but to fight. By all means, go ahead. All the more satisfying for me when I strp you of your will and fighting spirit before sending you all to your deaths. The king sadistically said, not taking the warning seriously in the slightest. Nothing more was said as the battle now grew even more intense. Deciding to make Naruto his target once more to set an example, the king launches a series of spade bullets to attack from different directions. However, failing to take Naruto's warning started to show when his eyes flared with white flaming aura as he utilizes his gale form to deflect the incoming projectiles with greater dexterity, rapidly switching between a normal grip and reverse grip based on the situation. This moment of distraction costed the king as Susie took the opportunity to rush up to him and deal a powerful strike with her newly acquired devil's knife. You have no idea just how screwed you are now that he's chosen to fight, Susie sneered while backing away to avoid a counterattack. Silence. I refuse to hear any more of your nonsensical babbling, the king demanded angrily, thinking what just happened was a fluke and that it wouldn't occur for the second time. Darkness pours from the fountain. Wanting to really lay the hurt on the king, Susie holds her axe straight up in front of her with a purple flame on top of the blade and smiles. Noticing this, the king launches his spade-tipped chain towards Susie to disrupt her attack. Before it could get any closer something flew through the air and knocked it out of the way, revealing to be Ragger having lashed out to defend Susie upon Naruto's command who glared at him. Nice try but no, Naruto scoffed. Both ends of Ragger extended and pointed out the king as if in emphasis with his defiant statement. With an annoyed growl, the king pulled back on his chain and launches it again but like before, Ragger lashes out and deflects it repeatedly while Naruto stood there and watched with indifference which only annoyed the tyrant even more. At that moment, Susie's special attack was ready. Take this, rude buster. She performs an upward swing her axe to a moderately large arrow of purple energy that slammed into the king, knocking him back. How'd you like that? Grr, it will take a lot than that to defeat me. I will not fall to you lighteners, said the king angrily. Good to know, we've got tons to unload on ya. King's mouths babble indecipherably. Wanting to fortify their defense, Naruto selected ACT and used courage to boost their defensive power for the meantime. Taking this as his cue to attack, the king proceeded to launch a series of chains with a spade symbol on top. Vol Scutum. Naruto cast a glyph to conjure a strong shield each for Susie and Ralsei to protect them from the attacks while he himself rushes towards the king, using the storm form to evade the chains aimed at him. The king attempted an attack by throwing a fierce punch. Naruto dodged at the last moment and immediately countered. Vol Grando. He slams a palm on the ground to create a glyph beneath the king, then ice burst out and encased the tyrant in it, immobilizing him, and now, Vol Macer. He stabs the Sakabato into the ground to form a glyph to conjure a large strong hammer. He grabs hold of the weapon with both hands and spins around a few times to build up momentum, then swinging to land a powerful blow which smashes the king right out of the ice. Naruto sends away the hammer and grabs his katana before backing away from the opponent. Please, there's still a chance for us settle things peacefully, you just need T-. Ralsei attempted to appeal to the king only to be coldly rebuffed. No more of your nonsense, pet of lighteners. Simply stand there and be destroyed alongside them, said the king angrily as he attacks with a combination of spade bullets and spade chains with Ralsei mostly as the target. Raga quickly extends itself to grab both Suzy and Ralsei, then pulls both over to Naruto, who crosses his arms to form the shield of determination in dome form to protect them. Cracks began to form on the dome, but Naruto held strong and channeled his determination to reinforce it until the attack stopped for him to drop the shield. Then he glares at the king. "Hey, don't you dare call Ralsei a pet or I'm gonna make you regret it." Naruto gave a stern warning, but like before, it was ignored. "And are you going to do about it?" asked the king arrogantly. "You're gonna wish that you never asked that question." Naruto went to act and selected Red Buster. Naruto took a stance with a clenched fist held up to his chest and eyes closed in concentration as his soul repeatedly pulsed. Suzy, who felt some sort of resonance, holds her axe straight up in front of her with a hot pink flame on top of the blade and smiles. Then Naruto's soul lets a bright flash on Suzy's axe, causing the blade to surge with energy as they both called out at the same time, "Red Buster." The latter swings her axe to launch a very large arrow of hot pink energy that slammed into the king and actually sent him flying back a few feet. "Ha, you're quite strong, aren't you? If I keep fighting like this, then..." The king rose to his feet and tried to appear unfazed, but then took a step back, now showing weakness. He stared at them with frustration, seeing how his efforts to bring their demise is being demolished as time goes. For once, he's the one who's afraid. Despite that, he refuses to accept defeat and kept shooting spade pellets again. Naruto easily dodges and parries them with his Sakabato, noticing that they were starting to move a bit slower than before. The battlefield is rumbling. Naruto kept up the assault along with Suzy, both now landing their attacks more easily and damaging the king in the process. It seems that, he paused for a moment, "My knight, I will not fail you." The king was getting desperate and tired from exerting too much magic and soreness from their attacks as he used his remaining force to shoot spade pellets again as his last attempt, which ended in failure before succumbing to his injuries and stopped his desperate attack altogether. King's cape flutters weakly. The stage went silent as the king of spades stopped. He dropped his weapon and his previous evil grin turned into a sad look of disappointment. "Enough is enough," he spoke slowly, completely devoid of will to continue fighting. I see that I cannot defeat you. I have grown exhausted from our long battle." He looked down and fell to the floor on his knees. His cape also flew away at that moment, leaving the once menacing king completely exposed and at their mercy. "Lightners, I have been too cruel. The truth is I was not always this way. There was once a time where darkners and lightners lived in harmony. A time where darkners could fulfill their purpose in peace. It would be a lie to say that I, too, do not yearn for those days." He barely smiled with nostalgia. Perhaps you young ones are right. Please let us put away our weapons. There must be a peaceful solution to all this." He smiled weakly. The trio looked at each other with suspicion. Could the king of spades, the one who so willingly threatened their lives just a few seconds ago, be trusted so easily? "I don't trust this. He could be lying and setting us up for a trap." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the king in thought. He doesn't fall for his act, suspecting that the king's words aren't truthful. Ralsei was the first to take a step forward into a normal position. Naruto and Suzy both stared at her as she laid her defenses down. She gave a warm smile back, trusting this situation. Naruto stared coldly at the begging king for a moment before sighing and lowering his Sakabato away for now. Suzy stared at both of them, clearly disapproving of it. "Come now, Suzy," Ralsei whispered. Suzy finally gave in, and slowly put her axe away with a grumble. They then approached the king, as the battle was truly over. "I'm glad you're starting to realize, Mr. King, none of us really wanted to fight you. If you can just tell us about your worries, I'm sure we can all be friends, Mr. King." The kind princess happily smiled at the king. "Why yes, friends, that sounds lovely." He tried to smile but then started to cough violently while holding his chest with his right hand. "My apologies, I am not used to fighting like that, my body is getting weak." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the king with caution and growing suspicion as he knew something is up with the king. He's just on standby in case the king tries anything funny. "Oh, don't say another word." Ralsei stepped closer and before anyone could react, cast a healing spell on the Spade King to help him recover from both his pain and tiredness. There, you should be all healed up. How do you feel? She asked innocently while examining his reaction. Let's see. The king checked his arm for a couple of seconds before firing a rain of spades sideways that mercilessly hit everyone, knocking them all down. He got up to inspect the now fallen heroes, with a sickening grin. Never better. I knew it. I knew that tyrant was faking it. Naruto angrily mulled in thought as he struggled to get up from the intense sharp pain after he and his team got blindsided. Why you? Suzy barely spoke whilst trying to get up. The pain from so many pellets in a second almost took her down while Ralsei was completely knocked out. Did I say you could get up? The creepy king summoned another round of spades and shot them at Suzy. She closed her eyes in fear as there was no time to react and no energy to move. But just as everything seemed lost, Naruto stepped in front of her forming a circular shield of determination and blocked the attack, saving Suzy. Naruto. Oh, spare me the heroics. In a burst of anger, the king summoned even more spades, this time from above so they couldn't so easily be shielded. He fired them so quickly Naruto wasn't able to defend anyone this time and Suzy was knocked out while he was forced to kneel in pain. Naruto tried to summon his glyphs in an attempt to stop the ruthless king but unfortunately, the tyrant saw this and shot a few more spade bullets, stopping him completely and knocking Naruto away, almost into the corridor from which they had entered. He slid on the floor with the knockback and was almost lost consciousness. He tried to get up but his body was in constant pain and his arms were too weak to move, much less force himself to pick himself up, so he just fell again. Damn it, this cannot be happening. We were so close. Naruto cursed himself in his mind for allowing this mistake to happen. And now they're paying the price for it. The king slowly walked to him and lifted him by the collar of his outfit so he could speak face to face. You're the leader, aren't you? So, what's your plan? To laugh as you cast us all back into obscurity? He just stayed silent. All he can do now is just glare at the tyrannical ruler with hatred and anger at the painful position he's in right now. There were too many things to process to even answer, let alone the pain engulfing his body as the situation went from bad to worse. All that determination to strike me down, where did it all go? He spoke slowly. Did it die with your friends? He laughed as he mocked Naruto just to get a reaction out of him. You can't even say. The king kneeled to get closer, now with a voice of concern and care. Young one, let me tell you a secret. He placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder slowly and gently. Naruto looked at him with one eye closed and the other barely opened. The king then quickly pulled Naruto into the air violently. Quiet dweebs, pss me off! Exclamation point. Naruto widened his eyes at what the king just said. Those words, those exact words, he said. The moment he heard those words, it was like hearing them from Suzy as he stared at the king, who smiled creepily at his reaction, thinking he's afraid. As he hung there helplessly, his terrible memories of Suzy flashed into his mind when he had been subjected to her cruel bullying nature in school and even in this world, especially their fight and the brutal beatings he received from her. It was enough for his growing rage building up intensely, unaware by the king. He didn't fight back and didn't struggle. He started to view the king as Suzy while imagining she's winding up her fist to punch him square in the face with a savage grin on her face, only fueling his immense fury as his right eye flickering red instead of white slightly without the king still not noticing. As the king summoned spades above his head aiming to finish him off while unaware that Naruto was inches away from unleashing his built-up rage on the king completely. Slam! Something struck the king's back, making him release Naruto on the floor while at the same time making him halting his fury from being unleashed, completely taken out. The Spade King stood there in shock and slowly turned around. Hey! Get away! From my friend, it was Suzy. In spite of being in great pain, she was making a last stand for her friends. She looked dead serious while holding the axe, and for the first time her hair bangs had been parted to reveal her yellow eyes which stared intently on the enemy before her. Both stayed silent for a couple of seconds. Heh 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 heh, the king grinned even more and started to approach Suzy slowly. Or what? You'll kill me? He challenged her. Nah, Suzy casually responded, you'd even be thanking me for this in the future. So what's your plan, then? To talk me to death? You stupid Lightner. You honestly think you have any way to convince me not to kill you? He summoned spades above her and Naruto's head. Nah, Suzy glanced past him with a grin, but they might. Suddenly, the floor started to shake as if hundreds of footsteps came from the throne room. Then, from the corridor appeared several Darkners and Lancer who was being carried above them. They ran towards the king and lifted him with the combined strength of several guards. Naruto was gently pushed away while Suzy just watched with a cocky smile. El Lancer. Everyone. What is the meaning of this? The king angrily demanded. Struggling uncontrollably. Sorry, Dad. You're being overthrown. Lancer responded happily while the Darkners repeated his name out loud. When I told everyone you were fighting the Lightners, everyone remembered how kind they were. They decided they'd rather have a king that accepts them. Me. He jumped happily, now I'm the dad. You idiots. The Lightners are your enemies. He screamed even louder, fools. I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you. He violently tried to attack the ones carrying him. Yikes. I think someone needs a timeout. Go to your room, Dad. Lancer pointed his finger at the corridor, commanding the Darkners. No 00000000000000000000000. On Lancer's command, everyone left to lock the overthrown king away. As such, Naruto, Suzy, and Ralsei were left there alone. After enjoying the comical overthrow, Suzy checked to see if Naruto was fine as she came over to him. Y'alright, Naruto? She asked awkwardly. Yeah, I'm fine, all things considered, he said, while checking his body to see if there were any concerning wounds. He could feel his soul passively heal him of his wounds and the soreness gradually fade away. Naruto noticed her extending her hand to him, offering to help him back up. He stared at her hand for a moment due to the bad history with her, but he ignored those bad memories since she saved him and was willing to stand up for him, which made him take her hand, helping him to stand up. Thanks for the save, he thanked her genuinely for her attempt. Suzy looked away, still feeling awkward. Yeah, no problem. Naruto. Suzy. Ralsei shouted from a distance. Oh, you're all right. Yeah, it'll take more than that to take us down, Suzy smiled proudly. Naruto, Suzy, I'm sorry. Ralsei turned away, not able to face them, because I healed the king. We almost, she stopped, not being able to finish that sentence. Suzy, you were right. I was foolish to think we could act so soft to everyone. This isn't a world where kindness always wins, is it? She turned back at them and looked down sadly. It's complicated. Yeah, sometimes there's people you just gotta fight. But if you never let your guard down, then you might just hurt someone you care about. Suzy spoke while avoiding eye contact. Suzy, that you're beginning to sound like a real hero. Ralsei smiled and was overjoyed with her words. Don't get used to it. Naruto just smiled at them with his arms behind his head in a laid-back manner as they shared a moment of happiness. It was over, the king was locked away and the fountain was finally achievable. Even though Ralsei waited and read the prophecy over and over her whole life, even she needed a second to process what they had accomplished together. She then remembered what it also meant. It was time for the Lightners to return to their world, to depart. She took a deep breath before speaking again. I suppose you and Naruto should return home now, she said, not as happy as before. I guess that's right, Suzy hadn't processed it either. She walked past Ralsei before turning away. She tried to think of a way to say goodbye, but nothing came to her mind, so she just stared awkwardly. Well, see ya, the monster girl said in the most casual way possible and waved goodbye, almost contradicting what had just occurred. Naruto stared at Ralsei for a bit. He wasn't sure how to just say farewell after all they have been together. Honestly, it felt a bit rushed without a proper goodbye. Still though, he knew that it's time to go and follow Suzy, but he couldn't leave in such a condition. So he did what his heart tells him to do. He approached Ralsei slowly and gave her a tight hug. No words were needed. Ralsei was taken by surprise by the hug but hugged back right away, with a bit of sorrow. "Goodbye, Naruto," she said warmly. And so the human and the monster left and headed to the fountain. They walked silently as there wasn't much to be said. Although it started as an awkward situation, both grew to enjoy this adventure and eventually each other's company. The fountain was just ahead, inside one dark door. Before Naruto could walk through it, Suzy put her hand on his shoulder. "Hey, Naruto." She struggled as she didn't want to show too much emotion. "Look. I know you want to give a real goodbye to everyone, right?" She smiled at him. Naruto stared back with a raised eyebrow for a moment before answering her question. "Yeah, I do, but why do you ask all of a sudden?" "I mean, I'm all for leaving right away, but you know, we could go back a sec." "If you wanted," Suzy tried to make it less obvious, but Naruto knows she just wants to give a proper goodbye to Lancer before departing. That, and she wanted him to at least give the others a chance to say goodbye. "I don't mind going back for a sec to give them a proper farewell before we return back home. It just feels right after everything we've gone through," he said with a smile, understanding what Suzy is getting at. "Well, then what are we waiting for? Let's head back." She genuinely smiled and they both walked back. As the two walked back through the corridor, Suzy suddenly spoke again. "Man, I just thought of something." "Oh yeah? What was it you just thought up?" Naruto asked in curiosity. "Well, since we're going back to say goodbye to everyone and stuff, this would have been a golden opportunity to take a few selfies as memories to remember by before we leave the dark world for good. Shame we don't have our phones, right?" She joked with a grin, thinking this would have been great to take a few photos. "Too bad it's just a thought." He stopped abruptly for a moment after hearing what Suzy just said, which made her notice with a raised eyebrow that he stopped walking all of a sudden. "Naruto? I honestly forgot about that. I guess after everything that's happened, the thought of me not pulling out my phone hasn't crossed my mind. The fact that I'm now realizing this was all because Suzy made a joke about taking selfies here before we leave is crazy. Still, do I still have my phone on me? I haven't been checking my inventory much throughout this crazy adventure. I wonder," thought Naruto. Then he quickly checked his inventory stats and looked over at items for a moment on the key slot. He took a moment and looked over to the glows hard and manual. He noticed that he actually still has his phone in his inventory that he never noticed until now. Then again, he rarely checked through his stats since he was more focused on helping Ralsei, putting up with Suzy's BS and stopping the king just to seal the dark fountain and go back home to the light world. Well, it's good to know that I still have my phone with me after coming to this world. It would have been great if I'd known this a lot sooner. I could have been taking a lot of selfies throughout my journey. Too bad I've lost that chance. He was a bit disappointed that he just now learned that he still has his phone with him, but that also means he lost his chance of taking selfies in different locations he has been at since unexpectedly coming to the dark world. Oh well. Hey. Birth to Naruto. Snap out of it. That got his immediate attention after snapping out of his thoughts as Suzy finally got Naruto's attention. About freaking time. First you stop walking for a moment, then you go silent on me. What was that all about? Sorry, it's just I still have my phone with me, which I just now realized it after you made a joke about taking selfies with the others before we leave, Naruto explained. Wait, you actually have your phone with you? She asked in disbelief. Yeah, don't you? You really don't have it on you, do you? Oh, shut up. How was I supposed to know we would find ourselves getting dragged in some other world behind a supply closet of all places in our school, and it's all because of chalk that Alphys asked us to go fetch some more for her, Suzy said while feeling a bit embarrassed and defended herself. Yeah, only because you've been eating all the chalk. Otherwise we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place, Naruto thought with a deadpan expression on his face. Well, it doesn't matter now anyways, I have my phone with me so I can take a few selfies while saying our goodbyes before we return back to the light world. Cool, now let's go back now, she said with enthusiasm as the two continued making their way back. As they walked back, Ralsei was looking at the floor, deep in thought until noticing both of them suddenly returning. Naruto. Suzy. You came back. The Dark Princess questioned. Naruto just wanted to say bye, Oh, actually. Everyone here wanted to say bye, too. Please let me know when you leave, alright? She blushed. Yeah, we'll try not to skip you. On what was before the battlefield between Lightners and Darkners, every Darkner that helped the trio in the journey was standing before them. From puzzle pieces to characters no one remembers. Naruto and Suzy greeted and waved bye to everyone, including Lancer, who was now the new king of spades, with the former using his phone to snap pictures with them and also took some for Suzy even though she didn't directly request to do so. After a proper goodbye to those who helped them on the journey, they walked back to Ralsei, who was patiently waiting, and together they took a "Who am I kidding?" They took a lot of pictures together, then it was finally time to leave. Suzy. Naruto. Are you leaving? She asked nervously, pulling down her green hat closer to cover up her face. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed meeting you too, and, she spoke but the hat blocked most of the sound. Hey, can you stop mumbling into your hat for a sec? Can barely hear ya, Suzy complained. Oh, I'm sorry. She then took off her hat, revealing her true colors. Ralsei, an adorable small princess, actually had white fur, unlike it was thought. She had little pink horns that were previously hidden by the hat and was even prettier than what Naruto or Suzy expected. Both of them were taken back by the reveal. Naruto, Suzy, she began, her cheeks tinged pink with embarrassment, before properly looking at them with confidence and smiling warningly. I hope we can see you again soon. Next time I'll make you lots of yummy cakes, alright? Suzy stared, bewildered. Yeah. Sure, Let's go, Naruto. She smiled, unsure how to react but genuinely happy. Naruto, however, was completely stunned by her beauty. Ralsei blushed as she realized he couldn't even speak at that point. Suzy rolled her eyes as she reached out to grab the back of his collar and dragged him away so they could actually leave, unaware that Ragger did something with Naruto's phone at that moment. After a true farewell, the Lightners made their way into the room where the fountain resided. They approached it slowly, admiring the view. The fountain looked like a beam of light continuously being fired for eternity. Its color changed every so often, doing so into every color the eye could see in a magnificent spectacle. Is this the fountain? Suzy said, perplexed by the rare sight. Dunno how, but it feels like we stumbled into something really important, didn't we? The monster slowly spoke without ever taking her eyes from it. Well, this fountain is our only ticket way out of the dark world, so I say this is something important to close it off in order to return back home, Naruto explained while not taking his eyes off from it as well. Well, there's no time to think about that now. Right now it's time to go home, right, Naruto? She smiled lightly and placed her hand on his shoulder. Yeah, it's time. Naruto stepped forward, getting closer to the dark fountain when he felt a familiar sense of information flowing into his mind. As you stood in front of the fountain, you felt something strange. It was as if your very soul was glowing. Naruto's soul glowed, then flew off his chest and touched the fountain, creating a light that covered the entire room. And with it, the fountain was finally sealed off its darkness, thus bringing the end of their journey. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 13. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.